All right. Well, I want to show you, this is a filament dryer from Fixdry. Now I have to say, one of my main accessories that I use with all my printers, it's a good filament dryer. You know, we all know how important it is to keep your filament dry. All these filaments, they're hygroscopic at some level, right? Some more than others. And whether you keep them in a sealed bag, trying to keep them dry, sooner or later you're going to need to dry them out in a dryer, right? You take them out of the bag, put it in the dryer, and you can let it dry for 6 hours or so, or let it dry for 3 or 4 hours, and a lot of times you can feed it directly into your printer and print with them, while it's still circulating, while it's still drying. There's a few different types that you can use. If you're drying in bulk, I've seen guys that put them in an oven, right? In an actual oven. You just got to make sure you have your temperature set correctly, or like a dehydrator, like a food dehydrator, and you can stack them in there. And once again, you got to make sure your temperatures are set correctly. If it's too hot, or getting bad circulation, in your oven or whatever, your filament could not only dry out, but it'll actually start sticking together, and bad news. So you got to really pay close attention. You see a lot of these everywhere. Some of them are a single chamber, and this one, you can see, it's a double, and you can put them in here. You can put this one will fit a couple of spools of filament, or one large one. And on the controls, and you have control of the temperature and the humidity setting, and the time and all that good stuff. Well, let's take a look at it a little closer. And before we get started, remember to check out our website, v3precision.com. You can check out our growing number of products and services, and even some pretty cool shirts. So let's get started. Now, there are a few specs that you need to take a close look at when you're choosing your dryer. Some of these dryers, like the one I had over here, the temperature will go up to 50 degrees C, and that's fine with like PLAs, especially PLAs, maybe some PETGs, stuff like that. It can dry on those lower levels. But if you're using say some different nylons or ABS, you really need it to go about 70 degrees C. All right, it takes a little higher heat and sometimes a little more time to dry those out, and that's why you need to look at if you're using a dehydrator. A lot of times they'll be drying at 100 or 120, and that's just way too much, right? Make sure you're going to be at those levels. From about 50 to 70 works pretty well, as long as you time it correctly, right? And I'd have to say I like the double capacity, so I can feed it one into one printer and one to another when they're side by side, or I can have both filament spools in there, and when one runs out, one is already dry and ready to go. You just pop it right in. Just feed the filament right in there, and take out the empty spool, and even put another one in there. So it just makes sure that you have some dry filament handy, right? And that's basically what I was looking for. I do a lot of nylons, a lot of carbon fiber stuff, and a lot of ASA, and I like to get it up to 70 degrees, and I like the double capacity. And this Fixdry does just that. When you're taking a look at this thing, let's power it on, and you can hear the fan kicked on. So it has a fan on the bottom, and it feeds. It'll pump the air up and out through these holes here, and while it's heating, I kind of like this. It has the this deflector, and you can feel the heat, right? If you can see that. Here's the heat, and you can feel the fan pushing it up. Well, that's directly onto, that's blowing directly onto the filament, right? So you have this deflector here, and it kind of distributes. Yeah, you can see how it's much more distributed out along the whole bottom plane here. And so let's put that back on. And with this, you can put, it's showing like a 58% right now. Of course, there's nothing in here, and we just turned it on. So we can set it 50, and let's see if it'll go all the way up to 70. There we go. Let's go back down to 50. And you can set the time. So there's your time. Right now it's at 5 minutes. Yeah, so I usually dry everything, anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. And they give a chart. With nylons, of course, yeah, say nylons be 12 hours, PLA, PVA 4 hours, PP, it's the ABS 2 hours, ASA to 4 hours, and I'm usually drying for about 6 hours on my stuff. Sometimes like I said, I'll dry it for a couple of hours and then feed the filament directly into the printer and let it finish drying while it's actually printing and just moving slowly in there. And nylon, 70 degrees at 12 hours. They give a pretty good chart in the manual here. And this one actually, the capacities, it'll go from 40 to 70 degrees C, and the time up to 48 hours if you need it. Well, let's see. I'm just going to pop some filament in here. Here's some PLAs that I haven't really used a lot. I'll go ahead and pop it in while we're talking. You can see the rollers on here are very nice. Alright, fits nice and easy. You can see it's extra tall. It gives you a lot of extra clearance here at the top. So it's working away. We're looking at 34 degrees C since I turned it on. 34, it's up to 34 and 38% humidity. And I set it for 6 hours, so you can see we're only a few minutes into it. So you'll see on the lid here, when I put everything on, it has multiple egress holes that you can feed your filament through, right? And I believe it came with this PTFE tube that you can slide in here also, and then feed your filament in, and you can feed this tube up to your printer, right? And there's multiple holes here. We've got 3 on the front, 3 on the back, on the top, 2 in the front here, and 2 more in the back. Plus the holes here, it looks to be like you could fit a fan up here if you wanted to. But anyway, there's plenty of holes here, which is a good thing when you're drying this stuff. It helps to have an opening so that your moisture can get out of the box, right? I have one behind me here that it does not have that, and while I'm drying, I have to kind of open the lid and let the moisture out of it, right? And while it's going, you can still hear it underneath. That fan is blowing everything up, so it's going up and out the holes. Well, everything seems to be working like it should. You can see I've been timing how long it took. I've been timing it, and I put another meter in there to register the humidity, and they're both showing 32 degrees. They're both spot on. Time-wise, it took about 15 minutes to get up to 40 degrees C. So it's that gradual slope up, which is good. You know, we're always looking for at a longer time frame, say it's 6 hours or so. You still don't want it to blaze up that high too fast. So it's just that gradual upkeep up to 50 degrees C. And then I'll double check on my thermometer inside here that I placed and make sure everything's, you know, together, and it looks like they are. So my pros with this, I do like the double capacity. I like having 2 spools dried. I like having the extra one, so if one runs out, I have one ready to go, you know, with no waiting. Plus it's the extra room. If I wanted the larger spool, I can throw some more spare desiccant in there and kind of dry it out. What else? I like the fact that it'll go up to 70 degrees C, so now I can dry all my nylons and ASAs that I use on this Bamboo Lab P1S, and because I do print a lot with that, with different nylons and carbon fiber stuff, and this seems to be a perfect match. I can set it right next to it, feed it directly into the printer, and dry all my nylons and carbon fiber stuff that I use. I like the LED controls. They're very simple. It's a power on. You can switch between temperature and your time, and adjust accordingly, plus or up or down. So it's very simple to control, very visible. You can just glance at it and see what it's doing. I like that they included the shroud here at the bottom to deflect the temperature. You don't want it just going directly up into the filament. This kind of distributes it out evenly all the way through the box. And there are some cons about this. There are multiple access holes, which it's great for ventilating everything out, but I think there's too many. There's too many, and there's no way to plug up the ones that you're not using at the time. Like at any given time, I might only use 2 of them. You know, one for each filament spool, and it's great that it has access at the top and the fronts or the sides. But I'd like some way to either plug these up or do away with some of them, right? But plugging them up while they're not being used, it will help for storage, right? The way it is now, if it's not drying, well, it's going to be attracting moisture again. There's no way to plug these holes up the way they have it set up. And the same thing with the holes here on the top. It looks like, and I can feel it, you know, you can feel everything coming out, but I think I would put a fan up here to draw everything out, but have it so that when it's not in use, you can close the holes, right? And so far, that's my only con about this. Everything else, it's fairly simple, works like it should. You know, it's great. But I think that's one of the main improvements. I would focus on long-term storage with this also. If you have 2 spools in here, there's got to be some way to seal this off and still have some desiccant or whatever in here, and use it for storage also. Because at any given time, even if I'm printing off 24/7, right, using this printer just day in and day out, the spools stay in there for quite a long time still, right? So if you have everything sealed off, it'll keep it much drier, even if it's just for short-term storage. But that's probably what I would focus on. Yeah, so overall, I think it's a great dryer. I think it's going to match up very nicely with my P1S, and I'll enjoy using it. If anything goes haywire with it, I'll let everybody know. But for now, it looks like it's working great. I'll include links in the description. Fixdry, you can get them on their website or on Amazon, and it looks like they hold discounts or sales quite frequently, so you can find one fairly good price. But I'll include the links there. I'll have to thank Fixdry for sponsoring this video. They did send this to me, and I'm glad they did. I think it's a very nice printer. It does need a couple of improvements, but I can do this myself. I can make little plugs for these things, right? And convert it over to a long-term storage box. But I guess that is it. So, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and watch for the next video.